So the first study that I'm going to be talking about is the one that we call the Unintended Consequences Study. And this one took place in New Brunswick and in Nova Scotia in 10 communities. And there I interviewed in-person interviews with decision makers and, well, that's much better, with decision makers and with operators in 10 communities, as well as one regulator in each of the provinces. And I wanted to understand from this group of individuals, as you move from implementing a new regulation to compliance, what are some of the unintended consequences that can arise as a result? And they don't always have to be negative, but usually when you have something that's unintended, it can be negative. So a lot of that came out of that was a bit of some themes, some ideas from individuals that were saying, listen, this is kind of a problem. We're trying to go from point A to point B, but we're having these issues arise as a result. So I'm just going to go through the 4 main themes that came out of that study. First, we have the issues around compliance. And as regulations get more intense, as people have to spend more time doing their duties as an operator, they find it more and more difficult to take on the other roles that they have, or maintain those other roles that they have within the community. A lot of operators in very small communities wear a number of hats. So you could be clearing the snow, you could be putting up Christmas decorations, you could be doing maintenance in buildings. And this sort of speaks to that issue of operators being invisible. Water operators don't do a lot of stuff that individuals see or individuals can easily understand. But people can really understand when you don't clear the road, when you don't fix something in a municipal building. So as a result, the community often sees the operators, they're working longer and longer and longer hours. All they see them is that they are driving around this truck all day. So they're not actually performing these duties that have to do with compliance. They're driving around doing something or other. So there is a little bit of confusion in the translation of what it is doing to be an operator, or what you are doing to be an operator. The second issue that came out, the second theme that came out as part of this unintended consequences was the idea of training, and that for rural and smaller communities, they often have quite a challenge of getting to training sessions. And not only that, but as you can see, as this operator says, she says that when she's leaving to go take on training, or when her and the other operator are leaving the community, they have someone that they have in temporarily to come take care of the system. But since that person isn't there all the time, maybe they don't attend all the training sessions, they're quite a junior operator, it's a bit scary for them to leave their system in the hands of someone else. So they're always worrying about this, what's happening at home, and they might get a call during the training session. They might have to step out and try to walk someone through something, or they might have to just turn around and go fix a major problem if something's happening. So that's one of the problems with having to have more training and also being far away from those training centers. A lot of you traveled a long distance to get here, I know. So this prompted one of the regulators that I was speaking with to ask, are we making it too difficult to be a water operator? Is it just simply too difficult in a small community to keep up with that level of training that we're asking of them? And that kind of feeds into this next idea that came out of this study, was that of recruitment and retention. We already talked about it this morning, and with that Closer to Home project that the AWWOA is going forward with, I think that'll help to address some of these issues. It's very difficult to become an operator. There's a lot of training that comes up front and a lot of hours that have to be put in. So the incentive might not be there for someone to say, oh, you know what, maybe I'll spend that time and become a water operator in my community. There's also, again, that problem of being invisible. People don't know what operators do, and from an early age, maybe that's not one of the things that the kids are thinking. Maybe I'd like to stay in the town and be a water operator when I grow up, because they just aren't aware of what the operator does. And then the third thing is what I've sort of taken to be calling the it's not you, it's me. So it's not that I don't want to be a water operator, I just don't want to live in this town. It doesn't have what I want. And so for a lot of people, they're seeing people come on, being water operators, getting the training, and then leaving for a city with more amenities. And the fourth theme that I have, I've split into 3 different parts because I think it's really, really important, and I can kind of hear that maybe you think so too. So this is the idea of your community relations. And as an operator in a small community, you're visible. You're in a daily life. People know who you are. They don't know what you do, but they know who you are, and they know what comes out of their tap, and they have opinions about that. So for this operator, he just said, they know where I live, I can't get away. When you're standing in the grocery line, when you're standing at the bank, if people have something to say to you, they're going to say it. And this is the same thing that happens with nurses and doctors in smaller communities as well. People see you, they have a problem, they'll come talk to you. The only problem is that when you're a water operator, I don't know if you often get positive responses from your community members, but it's more likely to be something negative that people have to say to you. So there isn't that positive feedback that happens within the community. The second idea is that it's incredibly difficult to regain trust. It's very easy to destroy trust. And that has happened in a lot of smaller communities where they've had issues with boil water advisors in the past, or just general issues with their drinking water systems. So this operator was speaking to the fact that his water system has improved greatly, but he can't get people to drink it. He says they're hard nuts to crack. They can't go back to drinking tap water. And so it's difficult to get that relationship back once you've lost it. And as this regulator said, that no one appreciates water. You just take it for granted, you turn on the tap and it's there. And we don't have this appreciation for the work that goes into it, and we don't really understand the level of attention that is paid to our drinking water that's coming out of the tap whenever we want it 24 hours a day. And it's incredibly difficult, I found, for this third point that I'm going to bring up for operators, because your competition is huge. Your customers, your consumer base, you're producing this product, this drinking water product for them. But you don't have a lot of advertisement, which your competitor, who's the bottled water industry, really does. And they're bringing up a lot of points that might make some sense to people because they're reading this information, they're seeing the ads everywhere. But they aren't receiving that counter message from the community. So the voice of the drinking water system isn't being heard over the very loud voice of the bottled water companies. It's a very cryptic message. I don't really know what they're trying to tell me, but they're definitely telling me that what's coming out of my tap is something that's maybe not water. The other one I took a picture of at the Halifax airport. I don't know if you can see the third bullet point. They would like you to know that no fish swam there. So I don't know if they understand the water cycle, but this is what people are telling them, and they're informing them that something is wrong with their community water because a fish was in there. So we don't have this counter push against this to inform people what you're doing and why your tap water is safe. But the problem is a little bit deeper than that. Sure, it's one thing if individuals in the community want to buy bottled water or have a truck come deliver their water, that's fine, that's up to them. But for operators that I spoke with, it was another thing if the local government was doing it. And it was a big issue for them to walk into their boss's office, essentially, and see that water cooler there and know that the boss didn't trust the product that they were bringing or devoting their lives to making. So the operator said, I don't have that choice. I trust my work, my tap water, I'm drinking it all the time. Why isn't my local government doing the same? So just to wrap up that first study, the unintended consequences study, we just really found that there were so many different issues that were coming up between regulation and compliance. And there really is no silver bullet to address those. But the operator plays a very critical role. But the operator also needs support, and that support needs to come from local government. It needs to come from community members taking pride in their drinking water supply. And it needs to come from other operators. So by attending conferences like this, you're networking, you're learning from each other, you're discussing your issues that you have in your own community, and hopefully you're taking away some messages as how you can make improvements or helping others as well.